All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, and welcome to WordStream's August webinar, Checking Your PPC Pulse, the Anatomy of a Healthy Campaign on Google and Facebook. My name's Amanda, and I'm just here to get things started before passing it off to our experts today. Just to run through some logistics to get going. Some of you may have heard of WordStream through our awesome content, our great blog, who one of our presenters is a main contributor to today. But we also have free tools. We're premier partners to Google, Bing, and Facebook. And most importantly, WordStream Advisor is a software program that you all can use to help manage your Google, Bing, and Facebook ad accounts from one place. So we hope that today you find a lot of information to help you with managing those platforms. So, of course, also we have some social media that we would love to have you follow us on, connect with us, be our friend. We have a great presence on WordStream, on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So connect with us. And last but not least, this is being recorded, and you will get both the slide deck and the recording to your inbox within 48 hours. And so please submit your questions throughout today. We want this to be helpful to you guys. We want this to be beneficial and make sure that you're learning a lot. So give us your questions as they come. And now I'll pass things off to Connor.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm an onboarding specialist here at WordStream. So I help every new client see success with the platform right when they start. Little fun fact about me, I have 3 little guinea pigs who are my life. Their names are Dwight, Tipper, and Little Buddy.
Hey everyone, my name is Connor. I'm a content marketer here at WordStream. On any given day, I'll be writing blog posts or white papers, preparing for webinars like this one, helping out with some video content. And outside of everything I do here at the company, some of my passions include the western half of the state of Massachusetts, which is the better half. I love hip hop from the southern United States, and I also love books, big reader. Before we get into the agenda for today's presentation, we just wanted to warm everyone up a little bit, get some engagement going. So we have this quick question for you all. If you're advertising on Google Ads, how many keywords would you say you typically include in an ad group? 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or 16 plus? It's okay if you don't know for sure. Just a rough estimate. We just want to just collect some primary data here and get people engaged. While you're answering that question, we will move on to the agenda for today. Caitlin and I just wanted to make sure that before we dove into all the details, everyone had kind of like a high-level understanding of all the stuff we're going to tackle today. So Caitlin, would you mind just quickly hitting the bullet points for everyone?
Definitely. So I am going to bring everyone back to the basics. So we're going to talk about the settings of your account. We're going to talk about the Google account structure best practices and how to set yourself up for success with your account. Talk about bids and budgets and how they're supposed to work in harmony, and a little bit more.
Awesome. I'm really excited to hear all of that great content. And then when Caitlin has wrapped up with her portion of the presentation, I will take over and talk about the anatomy of a healthy campaign on Facebook. And towards that end, I will be talking about selecting the right objective for your campaign, setting logical targeting and placement parameters, writing really effective ad copy in an environment when people don't necessarily want to see ads, and a little bit more. So with that, I will pass things off to Caitlin to talk about the anatomy of a healthy campaign on Google.
Perfect.
But first, I'll launch what we saw in our poll. So let's see. Alrighty, so we had a lot of people in the 6 to 15 category, and then coming up second was the 1 to 5, so one keyword in an ad group. What do you guys think about that?
To be honest, I'm actually not surprised about that at all. So I'm going to go over some best practices when I talk about the account structure section. But when I see that people are hitting that 6 to 15 range, I am one happy consultant. Perfect. So I will kick things off by going over the anatomy of a healthy Google Ads campaign. So having an optimized campaign is more than just lowering your CPA and getting traffic to your website, even though those are amazing goals to have. If you see that your spend isn't resulting in the goals that you expected, it may be time to diagnose your campaign by first taking a step back and getting back to basics. It's best not to overcomplicate things. So where to begin? We are going to begin by putting on our detective hats and going right to the heart of the campaign. Make sure you ask yourself the where, who, when, and how. So where are we serving our ads? Who are we targeting, and are they the intended audience that we're looking to capture? When are our ads serving, and how are we targeting them? So let's get started by taking a deep dive into the settings of the account. So we're going to start off with the where. So do you target the entire US, but you only serve the Boston area? It may be time to look at your location targets. So just as a note, you can target countries, states, counties, zip codes, or even a radius around a location of your choosing. Just make sure you aren't narrowing yourself too much, or you may see a dip in traffic. However, there's another side to that. If you open yourself up too far, you may see a lot of impressions, but not a lot of relevant clicks come to your website. So there's a couple ways that you can combat this. You can utilize location bid adjustments on high traffic areas, but still target a large area. Or you can pull up the user location report in Google, and you can find out exactly where people are coming from. Just make sure you give yourself a fair amount of data, at least 30 days, just to see where people are coming from first, and then you can pull the report. Anything shorter than that, you may not get an accurate sample size. The other area for the where question are the Google Search Network partners. So these are websites that have partnered with Google to show your ads. And what you can do is you can see this in Google. If there are a high amount of impressions but very little clicks, it may be time to look at the data these partner websites are bringing in. So look at things like click-through rate. You can see the traffic that is coming from it, the spend. If you see a lump of your spend coming from search network partners that could then come from google.com, you might want to reevaluate where you're showing your ads. However, I always like to look on the positive note as well. If you find that you need more traffic to the website or have more daily budget to spend, sometimes opting into these search network partners can be beneficial. So I always say to make changes based on your overall goals. The next section I'd like to go over is the who, and I'm not talking about the rock band. So Google will automatically default to all languages whenever you create a new campaign. So make sure you switch it to the language that you want to target. And the way I always like to phrase this is, which language are you looking to target? What language are your ads in? What keywords are you bidding on? What's your landing page in? If you have multiple languages living under a single campaign, you are going to spread yourself really thin, and you might get languages coming through the search term results page that you don't even speak or don't even cater in. Another area to narrow down the who is through demographic targeting. So in Google, you can target age, household income, and more in the demographics tab in Google Ads. Lastly, audience targeting is a great layer to add to a search and a display campaign. You can add an in-market, which are people who are actively researching in Google for the products or services that you offer. Or you can attach a remarketing list to your search campaigns, and those are people who have previously been to your website. So let's talk about the when. Why spend money or drive traffic to your website if there is no one there to answer the phone? This is a common mistake I see in a lot of new accounts. So if you are only open from 9 to 5 and you don't have an off hours call center, it could be beneficial to create something called an ads schedule. Just as a note, Google serves ads in the time zone of the account, not the user. So if you have multiple campaigns with the same ad schedule, but you're targeting different locations, make sure you take their time zone into account, or you may not serve your ads. So let's talk about the how. So do you know who has control over your bids? If not, it might be time to look at something called your bidding strategy. And there's two different avenues you can take. You can either go full automatic or a manual approach. So let's talk about manual first. If you have any worry about your keyword level bids and want to adjust them yourself, it's time to switch to a more manual strategy. There are two main pros and cons that I always, or three actually, 3 pros and 2 cons for manual that I like to go over. The first pro, you have complete control over your keyword level bids. And you can adjust them based on the ROI of each keyword as well. So if you want to focus on one type of keyword over the other, you can definitely do that. And you can also take advantage of the demographic bid adjustments. So when it comes to a manual strategy, you can increase based off of location, off of the time that you want to serve your ads, the gender of the person, if they've moved recently. There's different events that you can target. The cons, on the other hand, you constantly have to be in your account adjusting your max CPC bids to stay competitive. And it may take a longer time to ramp up new campaigns with data because you will have to do some manual testing. As well as if you see that a competitor's come in sometime and you're not catching it in time, your ads won't show or have a lower impression rate. So next up is automatic. So why choose this strategy? I like to consult my clients and tell them to go on an automatic strategy if they feel like they don't have enough time to set and manage their keyword level bids. And with enough conversion data, Google will help you optimize your performance over time. So if you feel like you don't want to be as hands-on in the account and let Google take a little bit of control, automatic strategies are for you. However, there are some cons. So when you set up an automatic strategy, you essentially give the control over to Google, and you can't adjust your max CPC bids. The only strategy one of the only strategies that you can cap Google off would be maximize clicks, where you could set a bid cap. But other than that, with like maximize conversions and target CPA, you don't really give Google too many benchmarks. Even small changes to a budget and structure can throw an account into a learning period as well. So I've seen people pause a broad match keyword and it can shift it into a learning period, which could take around 7 days for Google to relearn the market and understand and align your keyword level bids with your goals. Something very, very important whenever you are setting an automatic bid strategy, whether it's target CPA or maximize conversions, make sure you have proper conversion tracking set up that is accurate to your goals and aligned with your business. And you should have at least 15 conversions in the past 30 days. If you don't have this proper benchmark set up, Google won't really know how much a conversion costs to you. And then moving forward, it may not be as optimized as you would hope. So if you want to dive into the automatic strategy field, start with a manual, get your conversion tracking settled first, get that benchmark data, and then you can move on to the automatic strategies. So I'm going to hop into the Google Ads account structure best practices now. So after you complete an audit of your settings, it's time to take a step back and look at the overall structure of your account. Now, just to be clear, there is no one size fits all when it comes to how an account should look, but we do have certain best practices to follow to make sure you set yourself up for success. So I like to use this cliche saying, compare your account to a house. How would you feel if your house didn't have walls? Would it be confusing, hard to direct people around? We consider the settings of your account the foundation, but once we let people inside, it is up to us to show them the relevant content, or they will leave. Account structure is extremely important. This is one of my favorite infographics that we have here at WordStream. I can't tell you how many times I've showed this to multiple people who start at WordStream as well. You can't have one campaign with one ad group with over 400 keywords in it, expect them all to play nice with each other. We have to direct people to the most relevant content possible. And the only way to do this is them having a solid structure right from the start. I believe in the STAG mentality, or the single themed ad groups, not to be confused with SCAG, or those single keyword ad groups that you might have in your account. So for those people who were mentioning earlier that they had 1 to 5 keywords per ad group, it may be time for you to assess what keywords you're bidding on and how you're driving people to your website with the relevant ads. So I'm going to go over the 3 golden ratios I really like to hit home with when we go over account structure. So the first one here, no more than 15 to 20 keywords per ad group. If we have more than this, our ad group might become bloated and we might not be able to test the status of that ad group properly. You should also have 3 ads per ad group. So what is better than creating beautiful ad copy? Testing it further. Don't pull all of your data into one bucket. Next one, maximum 7 to 10 ad groups per campaign. Anything more than this can cause your account to get bloated as well. Having multiple themes in one campaign may be an indication that it's time to split out your account in different campaigns. So anything more than that 7 to 10 might be time to reevaluate. Okay, so I went over account structure and settings. Now it's time to talk about money. Are your keyword level bids at a healthy rate so they work in tandem with your daily budget? Or do you notice that you aren't getting much traffic as you would hope? We will take a deep dive into how your bids and budgets are supposed to work in harmony with each other. So where is your money going? If you're like me, you want to know where every single penny of your spend is going. If you notice that your spend is lumping into a single ad group and starving the others, you may have a problem on your hands. Which leads me to the keyword cannibalizers discussion. More often than not, keyword cannibalizers can silently spend the majority of your daily budget and essentially take the limelight away from other important keywords that you also want to perform. If you notice that one of these is present in your account, it could be time to split that ad group into its own campaign or change the match type of that keyword to narrow your traffic. This will help the overall health of all the other keywords that could have potential. Next area is your max CPC bids. So are you noticing that your keywords aren't spending or that your impression share percentage is low? It could be time to look at your max CPC bids that you're setting. If you are bidding too low on a manual strategy, you aren't giving your keywords a chance. On the reverse side, if you're bidding too high on a keyword, your daily budget might get depleted too quick. A quick note about your max CPC bids. If you notice that your max CPCs have increased drastically recently, it may be time to do some competitor analysis. And that's where you would go into the Auction Insights tab, and you can see the actual competitors who are bidding on the same terms as you, and if they're overlapping, if they're showing up above you. So this area of Google can be a place where you can diagnose that. So let's talk about how bids and budgets work together. They should be in harmony with each other. You can tell if they aren't by noticing that your daily budget is getting depleted due to 1 or 2 clicks, or certain keywords aren't performing at all and have very low impression share. So I am here to answer this age-old question: what should my daily budget be? And this is where I'm going to bring up bid to budget theory. This is a theory that was coined by our very own Nava Hopkins here at WordStream. And what we say is that you should have your max CPC should not be higher than 10% of your daily budget. That means you should have enough budget allocated per day to have at least 10 clicks. That way we can determine what your conversion rate will be. And yes, this also includes the industries with high CPCs. Lawyers and dentists, I'm talking to you. Now that our settings and budgets are where we want them to be, time to talk about how we are targeting. So the question I want you to ask yourselves is, are we targeting the right people? To answer this question, we have 2 areas that we're going to dive deep into: the search results and the keyword match types. So let's start off with my second favorite infographic that we have here at WordStream, my favorite little triangle here. So before I begin, let me get something off my chest. There is no such thing as the superior match type. Remember to assess your goals before determining which match type is best for you. So, do you value traffic and getting as many people to your landing page as possible? The bottom of the triangle is better for you. However, do you want to target a specific query and are okay with limited traffic? Try the top. These all have a place within your account, and when used properly, broad match can bring in great traffic. Exact match can bring in great traffic. It's just all about how much reach you want compared to the relevancy of your queries.
Caitlin, if I could just jump in real quick, I do want to mention that Google recently announced some big changes coming to broad match modifier and phrase match. I'm not going to get into the details because it can get pretty complex, especially when you're not reading, you're just hearing my voice. We do have a blog post on the blog that I think went up 2 weeks ago. Basically, Google has changed the modified broad and the phrase match types such that a broader pool of search queries can trigger your keywords. So basically, if you have a phrase match or a modified broad match keyword, it will now be triggered by a higher number of search queries, or at least there's the potential for that, which could be really good if that opens you up to relevant users who you aren't already connecting with, but it can also be dangerous if those new search queries that are triggering your keywords are irrelevant to your business. I will plug one of the best features of WordStream Advisor right now, QueryStream, which Caitlin just mentioned. QueryStream basically allows you to take a look at all of the search terms that are triggering your ads. And as Google kind of blurs the lines between all of the keyword match types and more search queries are triggering your ads, I would encourage you to use the QueryStream, I would say every single day, just to make sure that you're not wasting money on irrelevant clicks. And I'll throw it back to Caitlin.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. When you start seeing these changes in your account, add negatives. If that's one piece of advice I can give to anyone who has a campaign running, make sure you're going in there and adding negatives whenever you can. Here's a quick note. So a common mistake that I see is putting every single keyword in your account on the same match type. Although it could work in the short term, make sure you adjust the match type based off of the search term results or the query stream if you're using the WordStream Advisor, so you can optimize your account further. However, a click isn't enough. So you notice that you spend $10 on a click. What comes next? Lucky for you, we have the advantage of knowing exactly what someone typed in to get to our landing page. Utilize the search term results page, the search term results section in Google, or the query stream to find out exactly what someone is searching for and why they spent that money to come to you. If they aren't relevant, set a negative so they don't come back. Now, before I sign off, if you notice that your account isn't running as you would hope, take a step back and look at it part by part. If your spend is coming from one ad group, tackle the structure of the match types. If you keep getting traffic from locations you don't service, check the settings. Your account is a well-oiled machine that sometimes just needs some tuning up. So don't get overwhelmed, take a deep breath, and utilize the great WordStream blogs that we have with great content.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. That was a ton of really awesome content. I know I got a lot out of that, and I'm sure the same can be said about the folks who have tuned in. One more thing about those changes to keyword match types. Caitlin did advise that you go with the stag approach over the skag approach, so single theme ad group over single keyword ad group, and that's even more valid now that Google is blurring the lines between match types, because the idea with a skag is that if you have one keyword in one ad, you can write the perfect copy that generates the perfect quality score, the perfect ad rank, and gets you way up to the top of the SERP and pay a super low cost per click. But as more and more search queries are triggering your keywords, it becomes harder and harder to write the perfect ad and match it to the perfect keyword. So I think these changes, which definitely aren't done rolling out, it just further proof that going with the stag approach is infinitely superior to the skag approach. But enough about Google. We will now use the rest of the presentation to start with the anatomy of a healthy Facebook ads campaign. Now, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, every single Facebook ads campaign is structured with 3 distinct levels: the campaign level, the ad set level, and the ad level. And for my portion of the presentation, I'm going to walk through these 3 levels and talk about some things you can do at each one of them to ensure that your Facebook ads campaign is a total success. We will start with the highest organizational tier, which is the campaign level. When you open up Facebook Ads Manager and you begin to build out your campaign, you might notice something that will surprise you, and that's that there's not a whole lot going on at the campaign level compared to your campaign level settings in Google Ads. There's just a lot less going on in Facebook. And at this initial stage of the campaign creation process, the only thing you really need to worry about is your objective. By selecting the objective, you're basically letting Facebook know what you'd like to accomplish with this campaign you're building. And at this point in time, there are 11 different objectives that you can choose from. As you can see from this screenshot, Facebook organizes these 11 objectives across 3 categories or buckets: awareness, consideration, and conversion. There's nothing random at all about this organization. Basically, each of these categories aligns with a different stage in your marketing funnel. Awareness campaigns align roughly with the top of your funnel, consideration campaigns with the middle, and conversion campaigns with the bottom. So let's talk a bit about each category of campaign objective. We'll get into the specifics of audience targeting when we talk about the ad set level. For now, what's really important to emphasize is that the users you're reaching with an awareness campaign generally aren't familiar with your business, and that lack of familiarity should really inform the tone and the messaging of your ads. At this point, you should try your best to not be salesy with your prospects. Now, why is that? Well, people don't typically make purchases from a business that they've just encountered for the first time. Most of the people that you're reaching with your ads have limited disposable income, and they have to be thoughtful about how they spend their money. So most people are going to need a bit more than a single ad before they pull out their wallets. So another way to think of that is if you try to drive conversions or sales at this early point, your ads aren't really going to resonate. They're going to perform poorly, and you'll ultimately end up wasting money. So what I would encourage you to do at this early stage, rather than trying to drive conversions or sales, is use these initial touch points with your prospects to grab their attention, make a good first impression, and just try your best to communicate the value of your business in a compelling and a succinct way. As an example of that, we can use this ad from Lululemon here on the screen. This is an awareness ad that they are currently running, and as you can see, they're not trying to push anyone to make a purchase. Rather, they're just emphasizing the value that their business offers people, which is minimizing your distractions, maximizing your practice. I can't show the video, but it's basically like an 8-second clip of a woman wearing Lululemon gear and doing some kind of yoga workout. So this is a great example of a way that you can make an initial touch point that's valuable without being too salesy and losing your audience. Moving down your marketing funnel, we have consideration campaigns. And at this point, you're reaching users who you've already connected with in some way, shape, or form. Despite that increase in familiarity, I would still encourage you to hold back from trying to drive sales at this point. I think it's really important that you initiate a number of positive, valuable touch points before pushing your users to buy. And again, the idea here is that if you push users to make purchases before they're ready to do so, that's going to lead to poor auction performance and ultimately some wasted money. I think the key term to keep in mind when you're running a consideration campaign is meaningful action. At this point, you should aim to inspire users to do something meaningful that creates value both for themselves and for you. The value for those users could be something like reading a blog post or watching an educational video, downloading an ebook. Something, when I say value, I mean something that's informative, educational, something that gives them for free and tells them a bit more about who you are, what you sell. And the value for you, of course, is that you're building audiences of engaged users who you can retarget with lower funnel audiences, which I'll talk about on the next slide with conversion campaigns. As an example of an ad that's included in a consideration campaign, we have this one from Hootsuite, which is a software company. They help businesses with their social media marketing. And as you can see, they're not pushing anyone to try the Hootsuite software. They're not pushing anyone to buy the Hootsuite software. Instead, they're just promoting this blog post of theirs, 16 of the best Facebook ad examples to inspire your next campaign. So the value here for the user is that they're getting some really great educational content. And the value for Hootsuite is that they're driving people to their blog, and the people who do decide to click on this ad, check out the blog post, can then be retargeted with a lower funnel offer, perhaps in a conversion campaign. And at this point, you're reaching users who have demonstrated a clear interest in your business. And therefore, I think you can feel confident that pushing users to convert with something like, if you're a software company like Hootsuite, like a free trial or a demo, or if you're in e-commerce, make a purchase. I think at this point, because people are so familiar with your business and have demonstrated such clear interest, I think it's okay to be a salesy like Denny's is here with this ad where they're trying to drive people to their restaurant. Using the audience pools that you've built with your consideration campaigns, I think it's important to explicitly call users to action and direct them towards specific offers or products or services. My first tip for a healthier campaign before we move on to the ad set level, align your objective with the depth of the relationship between your business and your target audience. So the less depth there is in that relationship, the less salesy you should be, the more focused you should be on simply making those valuable touch points and just creating a good experience for your prospects. And then as there's more and more depth to that relationship, you can get a bit more salesy because you've made that connection and you're good to go. Next, we have the ad set level. And as you can see from this kind of hideous slide that I put together, there's a lot going on at the ad set level, certainly more than there is at the campaign level. And that's why I've labeled it the core of your campaign. This is where you create your target audience, where you select your placements, and where you determine your budget and your schedule. To be clear, you can have many multiple ad sets within a campaign. Obviously, as with Google Ads, you shouldn't just keep going and going, but I just want to make sure everyone knows you're not limited to a single ad set within a campaign, but for simplicity, we'll just be talking about one for now. We'll start with audience targeting, and when you're building your target audience for a Facebook ads campaign, there's a number of different roads you can go down, and I think probably the most well-known strategy, even among people who aren't involved in marketing, is something called detailed audience targeting. With detailed audience targeting, you can build an audience of users based on characteristics like demographics, interests, behaviors. So, for example, you can target people who've just had their first child, people who like horror movies, people who regularly commute to work. Those, I think, what people think of as like the typical Facebook ad targeting. And this is a really great option if you're building an awareness campaign or a consideration campaign. So, for example, if you think back to that Lululemon awareness ad that we looked at, that would be well served to women between the ages of 18 and 34 who have an interest in physical fitness and yoga. That would be a perfect audience. Or that Hootsuite consideration ad that we looked at, you serve that to working professionals who have shown an interest in digital marketing. That's another good example of how you can use these parameters to build a relevant audience. The other avenue, I think the less well-known avenue, at least among the general public, are two tools called custom audience targeting and lookalike audience targeting. And as you can see from this screenshot, a custom audience is made up of users who you've already connected with somehow, and a lookalike audience is made up of users who look like users you've already connected with. These are really powerful tools, and I think they can be used successfully in a number of different ways. Believe it or not, I think one of the best uses of a lookalike audience is for an awareness campaign. If you can create a lookalike of your past customers, people who have already bought something from you, and then target the lookalikes with really compelling ads that communicate the value of your business and make a great first impression, you're in great shape, because that's a really awesome pool of high funnel prospects that are going to be eager to consume more content and just work their ways further and further down the funnel towards making a purchase. On the other hand, I think custom audiences are really well used for consideration campaigns and conversion campaigns. At the consideration stage, targeting an audience of users who clicked on your awareness ad with a video or a blog post, something that's valuable but low stakes, that's a great tactic. At the conversion stage, targeting someone who watched the entirety of your video or who visited your blog or who downloaded an ebook, hitting them with something lower funnel, like for a software company, that would be a free trial, or any lead gen services company, a free trial, e-commerce, some kind of discount. So just thinking about why users are in that audience, what they've already done to interact with your brand, and then going from there with what you hit them with a conversion campaign. My second tip for a healthier Facebook ads campaign: never duplicate like an identical audience across multiple ad sets. And the reason for that is when you have multiple ad sets, you want to make sure that the audiences you're targeting with each one of those are at least slightly different, because testing different audiences is a great way to glean some valuable insights that you can use to refine your strategy going forward. The audiences that you're targeting with your different ad sets, they don't have to be wildly different. There can be some intersection there. You just want to make sure that you have at least one, independent variable, so you can see what works and what doesn't, and have healthier audience targeting going forward. Next in the ad set creation process is placement targeting. And because Facebook owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and each of those properties offers a number of ad placements, it can get kind of easy to be overwhelmed by this part of the ad set creation process. And I think what's really important to remember is that who you're targeting with that audience you just created is going to largely determine where you find the most success. Another way of saying that is different groups of people tend to use or favor different platforms. So for example, if you're an e-commerce company and you're trying to reach men between the ages of 18 and 25, the Instagram feed, Instagram stories, those are probably a safe bet. Alternatively, if you're targeting retired women who are in their 70s, Facebook newsfeed is probably the way to go. And of course, I'm generalizing. There are young men who love Facebook. I'm sure there are 85-year-old women who post Instagram stories every single day, but we have to make some assumptions as digital marketers. And I think when it comes to your placement targeting, it's really important to just be thoughtful about who you're going after and what you're trying to accomplish with that audience. And the final stage in the ad set creation process is setting your budget and your schedule. A lot of this, as with the rest of the campaign creation process, is pretty self-explanatory, so I don't want to spend too much more time on this. I'll just hit on a few key points. The first one of them being that in the lower half of that screenshot when you get charged. This is a really important decision because this is where you tell Facebook whether you'd like to pay for impressions, for clicks, for views. And in some cases, you won't have a choice here. If you're running an awareness campaign, you're paying for impressions whether you like it or not, just because that's what makes sense based on the nature of going after people for impressions. But if you're running a consideration campaign or a conversion campaign, you will sometimes have the choice between different charge bases. And again, that's a really important decision. So for example, if you're running a traffic campaign, which is under the consideration umbrella, paying for clicks is better than paying for impressions. If you're running a video views campaign, which is also under the consideration umbrella, paying for views rather than impressions is definitely the way to go. And I want to be clear that clicks and views are more expensive than impressions. So your daily budget that you set for your ad set will definitely get eaten up faster if you're paying for those clicks or views. However, because you're trying to bring people to your website or you're trying to get people to watch your video, those more expensive events are more valuable. So it's it's worth the price. In terms of scheduling, my one key tip is just for anyone who's advertising a brick and mortar store, similar to what Caitlin said about ad scheduling for Google Ads. If you're running conversion ads, don't run them outside of your hours of operation because you don't really want to spend money on people who are looking at your ad or clicking on your ad. It's the middle of the night, your store isn't open for 6 hours. So just make sure you're set there. And lastly, I want to talk about your delivery method. I would recommend going with standard delivery over accelerated delivery. The difference being that with standard delivery, Facebook will spread your ad set budget out over the course of the day, whereas with accelerated delivery, you'll be entered into every single auction you're eligible for until your budget is spent for the day. So you'll be out of money for the ad set much sooner than you would be with standard delivery. And the reason that I recommend standard is that auction prices fluctuate throughout the day as demand for ad space fluctuates throughout the day. And when you go with standard delivery and you enter some auctions but don't enter some others, you have a better chance of capitalizing on some really awesome low-cost opportunities. Whereas with accelerated delivery, you have a much less opportunity to capitalize on those low-cost opportunities. My third tip for a healthier campaign here: respect the learning phase. Let your ad set drive at least 50 conversions before making any major edits. For those who don't know, when you launch a new ad set or when you make a really big edit to an ad set, like changing your audience or changing your placements or your budget, it resets what's called the learning phase, which is basically the period of time that Facebook uses to collect data and experiment with different ways of delivering your ads. And basically, by the time the learning phase is over, Facebook has a much better idea of what works and what doesn't work based on who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to accomplish. So I think it's important that you let the learning phase run its course so Facebook can optimize on your behalf. So if you launch an ad set and then you have an idea for a big edit you want to make, just make sure you're letting Facebook collect the data it needs before you do anything too big. And finally, before we wrap up today, the last step in the campaign creation process is the ad level. So actually creating the marketing assets that your prospects are going to see on Facebook and the other properties. And I do want to point out that if you're super crunched for time and you already have organic content on Facebook and you don't have the bandwidth to create all new ads, you can simply promote your existing organic content, which does make sense in some cases. If you are really crunched for time and you're already using organic posting to promote your blog and you just want to drive more traffic to that blog, you can just put some money behind it and turn those existing posts into ads. That's totally fair. However, in most cases, you're going to want or need to start from scratch. And if that's the case, the first thing you're going to have to do is select your ad format. Generally, I think your ad format should align with your objective and your target audience. So for example, if you're working for a B2B company and you're targeting past website visitors with an ebook offer, you don't have to get too crazy. Using the single image or the video format is the way to go. If you want to turn a static image into a little bit of an animation to make it a bit more eye-grabbing, cool. But I think that's an example of a case where you don't need to get too adventurous with your ad format. But alternatively, if you work for an e-commerce business and you're using Facebook to target customer lookalikes and promote your brand new women's apparel catalog, definitely go for a carousel ad or a collection ad so you can show off like a range of products. Nothing I'm sharing here is terribly groundbreaking. Just make sure the format you pick makes sense given what you're promoting, who you're promoting it to, and why. And finally, I think the most important part of the ad level is actually writing your ads. We could dedicate an entire webinar to Facebook copywriting, and we kind of did last month. Last month I hosted a webinar with another one of our in-house experts, a woman named Holly, and she shared her 4 best tips for writing effective ads on Facebook. So I would encourage you, if what I shared today isn't enough, go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. Holly is super smart, really good with Facebook stuff, so she has some really good advice. What I will leave you with today is just one piece of advice for writing ads on Facebook, and that's that you should always keep in mind that people don't go on Facebook to look at ads. People generally go on Facebook to stay connected with their friends and their family members. And yes, increasingly we're seeing that people will use platforms like Facebook and Instagram as sources of inspiration for their next purchase. But generally speaking, people aren't like, oh, I got to get on Facebook. I haven't looked at any ads recently. That's just the reality of the world we live in. So as a result, I think the effectiveness of your Facebook ads rests really heavily on your ability to blend into users' news feeds. In other words, I think the best Facebook ads are the ones that don't disrupt the user experience, which raises the question, how do you blend in? How do you write ads that don't disrupt the user experience? And I think the answer is aligning your messaging with the needs of your target audience. I think the more effectively your ad addresses your prospects' needs based on where they fall in your marketing funnel, the less it will feel like an ad. And this ties all the way back to what I talked about with your campaign objective. The higher in the funnel your target audience falls, the less salesy your copy should be, because if you think about it, a surefire way to not blend in is by targeting a totally cold audience with a super salesy ad. That's going to stick out like a sore thumb in their news feeds. However, I strongly believe that if you're thoughtful about where your audience is in your marketing funnel and what they need at that point in time, and then you shape your copy and your offer and your call to action around those needs, I think you're going to create really effective ads that blend in seamlessly and provide an awesome user experience, which ultimately is what Facebook wants. So they will reward you for that. My last tip for a healthier campaign, align your copy with your campaign objective. The higher in the funnel your audience is, the less salesy you should be. And finally, before we wrap up and turn it to Q&A, my big, broad Facebook advertising takeaway: keep everything aligned. Your objective, your target audience, placements, format, copy, all of these things should be in sync. I know that technically when you're creating your campaign, each of these is a distinct decision. It's an individual decision that you're making, but they all inform each other. As soon as you pick an objective or create a target audience, that should really inform all of the other decisions you make. And I think the more in sync all of these components are, the more success you'll see with Facebook ads, which can be a lot of success. It can work really, really well for small businesses. So just keep that in mind. And that's all I have for today. So I think I'll throw it back to Amanda.
Awesome, thank you. We had so many questions come through, which I'm wicked excited about. But before we get to that, I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about a special offer that we have for everyone on the line today. You know, Connor mentioned all of those changes that Google's making to how they serve up ads and use your keywords. So if you feel like your accounts need a PPC checkup, or you want to maybe you want to start a Facebook campaign because you're only on Google, but you need some account specific expert advice or analysis that's really based on your industry and your data, then take us up on this offer. We have tons of in-house experts that can go through your Facebook and Google accounts with you and figure out what's working and what's not, and make sure that you're following the best practices that we saw today. Alrighty, so while you guys are telling us about that, let's go into some questions. So we had questions on both sides of the house. Since we just ended with Facebook, I'll start with this one. You know, this person was tips for improving B2B conversions from for Facebook. So like they are a B2B company, they're targeting people on Facebook which they're assuming it's for personal use. Should he choose personal interests or professional interests, a mix of both? Is there a best practice there?
I think that's a good situation for A/B testing. So, which I know is such a marketing thing to say, but it really is the best way to find out what works best. So like I said, you create your target audiences at the ad set level. So if you can break out a campaign into a couple different ad sets, and in one case you're targeting people based on their personal interests, and with the other audience you're targeting people based on their professional interests, I think that would be a really good and really straightforward way to find out what works best. I think more broadly speaking, what's important is just, like I said at the end there, to think about what your prospects need. So as a B2B company, there's a lot of opportunity to create educational content like we do here at WordStream, and I think educational content can be a really great way to create what I mentioned earlier, those really valuable low stakes touch points that allow you to delight your prospects while at the same time maybe collecting a bit more information about them, qualifying them more, seeing what they need from you. And I would also say that LinkedIn is a good platform. It's definitely more expensive than Facebook. I'll say that you're gonna have to spend a bit more on LinkedIn to get to see the same results. However, in terms of in terms of targeting people based on their professional interests, LinkedIn is a great platform. And they also, a couple months back launched interest targeting as well, so personal interests. So you can run that same kind of A/B test with your LinkedIn campaigns if you do get on the platform. Yeah, that would be my advice. We do have some resources about LinkedIn as well. Not as many as we do for Facebook, but yeah.
I'm also going to chime in with that as well. So I know that we didn't speak about this during the webinar today, but if you are on Bing, you can also try Bing out and have that work in tandem with LinkedIn, because they both, Microsoft did purchase LinkedIn, and you can go in and target industry-specific job titles as well as companies. So I'm always, I always root for the multi-platform approach. If you can get people on every single platform and get your ad in front of them, they will become more familiar with your brand. So hit them on Facebook, hit them on Bing, hit them on LinkedIn, hit them on the display network. So that's just a way that you can help with that A/B testing within Facebook if you find that you haven't seen value so far.
Awesome. And one of the benefits that we like to drive home about WordStream is that you can manage Google, Bing, and Facebook all from one place, one login, to help you streamline that workflow. Alrighty, so I have an agency on the line who just acquired a super messy PPC account. You talked about the importance of account structure. Do you suggest starting from scratch or trying to optimize the existing account structure and making changes?
So that's an amazing question, and I've definitely run into those situations with a lot of my agencies as well. I never really suggest starting from scratch. And the only reason why I say that is because historical data is one of the most important benefits of that account. So if it comes to you in a mess, you can definitely value it for what it is. However, we have, like one benefit of WordStream is that we have tailored alerts that can help you find areas of opportunity without having to dig through the entire account constantly. So we have a great dashboard page that can have you start right at your highest performing or even your lowest performing campaign. Within Google, they'll definitely highlight certain areas where you're spending the most and where you could add more budget. But what I would suggest is, taking it with a grain of salt, taking a deep breath, and if it's a scag, don't worry, we have resources for you, and we have people here who can help as well.
Awesome. So Andrew on the line says, if you need to make a major change to a Facebook ad set, will duplicating the campaign and then making the change take advantage of Facebook learnings? Will it affect that negatively? Is duplicating on an ad set level okay? Is it possible? What are your thoughts?
So whenever you want to test something out, I would keep it within that budget of that specific campaign that you're creating. So if you can't technically duplicate, like copy and paste an ad set. What I would recommend you doing there is having it live under the same campaign, test it out side by side. And something else that I don't know if we mentioned, you can exclude demographic and interest targetings in your Facebook ad set as well. So if you want to have one ad set that targets a specific person and a specific interest, but the other one like maybe doesn't exclude that, or maybe you exclude that one person, you can test it side by side that way.
Awesome. Can you just point out quickly what that area in Google was where you can see what your competitors are doing?
Definitely. So, and I think I know this like the back of my hand. If you log into Google, you can either go into your campaign level and you can click on the Auction Insights tab, and that's right at the top. So yeah, right at the top of the screen. You don't have to click anywhere else in Google, just click in the campaign, or you can even do it at the ad group level as well. So click into a specific ad group, click into the Keywords tab, and then the top right, or the top, I believe it's between the search term results and the keyword level, you'll be able to see the auction insights.
Cool. And someone also just asked, is there a best practice to create a Facebook ad that increases Instagram followers? Or is that not something you've seen much of?
So if you opt into Instagram placements, they will work in tandem with each other. If you prefer to have, let's say someone comes to your website through like a Facebook ad set, you could do like a remarketing ad set, like a remarketing list just to Instagram if you would like to do that. But I usually, before I even make that determination, I like to have them on, like I can do like A/B testing, like one on Facebook, one on Instagram, just to see if that would even be worth it first. So before you put all your eggs in one basket, test the data.
Yeah, and just like towards Caitlin's point, an easy way to test Facebook versus Instagram is just to create two different ad sets and then just at each ad set adjust the placement settings, because again that's set at that ad set level. So one ad set is Facebook, one's Instagram, and that's an easy way to collect some valuable data.
Awesome. And then someone said, so if Google is making broad modified more broad, should I keep using it? I'm kind of confused. And I think this is going to go ahead and bring us back to the query stream idea and monitoring for negative keywords.
Here, I'll take this one. So I have had a lot of concerns raised about the modified broad that's going to be essentially allowing all these close variances to come in. What I tell all my clients is take it day by day. Modified broad is still going to be valuable because we are locking those keywords in. However, certain keywords could have a different meaning to Google. So set those negatives appropriately. Use the query stream to see what people are actually, typing in as well. Example that I like to make is that Google will combine like purse and handbag. They think they're the same type of query. So if you don't want people looking for handbags when you sell purses, add that negative sooner rather than later. If you feel like you have any close variances that are going to be an issue, it's best to be a step ahead. But just know that when they did open up the exact match to that close variance, like there was like a little bit of a learning curve, but we are better equipped now because we know what Google has done in the past.
And I do think it's always worth to take a step back and think about why Google would make this decision. And the logic really is that there are cases where a keyword match type, it's great because it gives you that control over which queries trigger your ad, but nobody knows everything. You can never know for sure, okay, this is the definitive pool of search queries that are relevant to my business, and there are no search queries outside of these boundaries that could ever be relevant to my business. But the thing is that I don't know what the specific number is. It's something like 15%. Something like 15% of searches made on Google every single day are unique queries that have never been seen before. So I think that goes to show that there, as well as your business, that's not in doubt. There are always going to be queries that are relevant to your business that you're not thinking of or that you're not targeting with your keywords. So Google's logic here is that by blurring the lines between the match types and opening them up to those close variants that Caitlin mentioned, you can drive some additional traffic to your website that's relevant and and acquire some new customers that way. And this introduction of close variants isn't entirely new because last year Google did the same thing with exact match keywords. So all of a sudden, well, it wasn't all of a sudden because there have been a series of decisions before that, but exact match keywords were matching to a broader pool of search queries. And our own Mark Irvine, who, by the way, was voted the #1 PPC expert in the industry by PPC Hero, he was tracking some of our customers' accounts to see what that expansion of exact match did. And the results weren't it wasn't unilateral. Some people really benefited from that expansion, some didn't. So I think it's important as these changes roll out with phrase match and broad match modifier, just to keep an eye on the data and see whether you're benefiting or you're not. And if you're not benefiting, just add negatives like crazy. That's the best thing to do.
Alrighty, we'll wrap up with one last question. Do you guys have best practices or suggestions for the best way to split up accounts that may have one massive group of ads or keywords going on? Should it be based on brand, generic, competitors, etc.? Is there something better to separate your account by?
So the first question I would ask you to reflect upon would be, what are your overall goals? Is it to bring people to the website? Is it to nurture them further? Are you trying to get leads? Are you an e-commerce platform? It really all depends. So whenever I get like a new client and we're discussing their strategy, that's when we decide that we're going to, restructure their account in a specific way. For e-commerce, I've seen that you can split your campaigns by theme, most likely. However, we do have other ways that we nurture them if they, let's say they abandon their cart, and that's using the display network. So, and in Facebook is the exact same way, like how we went through before as well with the intent. So you can either, depending on your goals, you can structure it by intent, you can structure it by theme. I would say if you're looking for more conversions, the theme one would be, or like not necessarily more conversions, but more like an e-commerce conversions, I would do more theme based.
Awesome. This was super insightful. We had tons more questions come through that were really specific to people's accounts. And we're going to try to get back to all of you who asked those account-specific questions and connect you with someone here so that they can get down to the details of your analytics and your metrics and help you out there. But we hope you guys found this webinar beneficial today and you learned a lot. Again, a reminder, this was recorded. We'll send you the recording, the slide deck, everything. Please reach out to any of us if you have more questions, and definitely check out a free trial of WordStream if you get the chance, and kind of peruse around our query stream feature to really make sure that you're identifying all those negative keywords before these new changes roll out with Google. Alrighty, we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thanks.